Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Hello everyone, thanks for joining us for this Sunday's show. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be your host this evening. On the satellite, you can see a couple of frontal systems, actually three, one way out there south of the Aleutians, and the one here in the Bering Sea with the storm warnings out for this evening along the coast, on the north coast, the Bering Sea coast of the Alaska Peninsula, back out to the eastern Aleutians here, and gales to the south. There's also storm warnings out this evening for the southeast coast due to this frontal system, bringing the gusty winds, high 60, 65 miles an hour in gusts to that area, and those kind of extending back to the west and diminishing. You can see the areas of clouds, or the cloud band, right up to the Alaska Range here. Some breaks over Bristol Bay, not too bad of a day there. Putting this into motion is a system that came northeastward yesterday and is right now there in the southeast Bering Sea. And winds gusting as high as 40 to 60 miles an hour here in the cold air coming around the south side of that storm system with it lifting northward. And a pretty windy day here for the eastern Aleutians on Alaska area, Nikolsky, right up into the Alaska Peninsula. And 25 to 35 mile an hour southeasterlies here in the northeast quadrant of the storm. Then comes back around from the northwest at gusts 30 to 40 there across the Pribilofs with rain. Kind of a mixed condition in across Bristol Bay, and of course mixed over south central Alaska with the freezing rain in Anchorage this morning. And areas of snow up here over the Wrangell Mountains, up into the northeast there, and another band extending southwestward from the Arctic Village area in the Yukon Flats down into the central Tanana Valley. But you can see that's kind of pulling back to the northwest there due to this southeast flow that continues across the northeast Pacific, Gulf of Alaska, and keeping it mild here over south central Alaska, especially south of the mountains. A lot of moisture out here over the northern Bering Sea, and pretty good winds up across St. Lawrence Island into the Bering Strait area. And rolling this again, see this front swinging up toward Kodiak Island, increasing clouds occurring. Not too bad though, pretty good day there, but see the clouds now reaching the southwest part of the island, the rain band just to the southwest of that. And this whole area of clouds extends up to the Russian Far East, and then all the colder, more showery conditions with the gusty west winds right there in that broken cloud area from the eastern Aleutians back to the northwest. And you can see it was a little more organized back here, but kind of getting stretched out. This is actually a cold front, the leading edge of the colder air, and this moisture bringing some periods of rain to the southern coast today, but the heaviest rainfall occurred back out here to the west. Unalaska picked up 1.45 inches of rain, and actually the heaviest rainfall amount was here at Yakutat with 1.65 inches in the same 24-hour period. Kodiak picked up 0.77 of an inch, and Cold Bay about half an inch of rain. So pretty good system there, both with wind and rain, right about in this position this morning at 10 a.m. And then here's the one along the North Gulf Coast, again with the storm warnings out along the Panhandle through this evening, and rain kind of gets a mixed condition here as you get inland, and then it's mostly snow up to the north and lighter, but quite an area of light snow extending back from the Alaska Range up to the northeast across the Yukon Flats, and dry out here to the west. For tonight, that system stays pretty wound up here, so looking at again the storm warnings for this evening here for the Alaska Peninsula, eastern Aleutians, beginning to diminish though later tonight for the eastern Aleutians before they will here over the Alaska Peninsula, and still southeast winds on the Bristol Bay coast there up to Old King Salmon over to about Togiak, and areas of rain or rain mixed with snow, or even some areas, possible sleet and freezing rain here along and north of this frontal boundary, except for the North Gulf Coast. Stays windy, especially the east side, with rain heavy at times. Again, on the east side, more of a continuous light rain along the remainder of the area there, getting a little more intermittent and mixing with snow as you head north again tonight. Probably light amounts continuing here for Cook Inlet and on the eastern slopes of any of the mountainous terrain we have over the interior. Up to the north, areas of flurries or light snow, kind of, well, pretty widespread around the area there, but also there could be some clearing, a little more steady, possibly heavier snow over the Brooks Range there, especially on the northern slopes back toward Kaktovik, and areas of light snow and flurries along the Arctic coast. Winds pick up here over the northwest coast, well, as high as gusts 40 to 45 miles an hour right down through the Bering Strait and into St. Lawrence Island. And that's going to continue through tomorrow. And again, the high here over northwest Canada and the pressure field in advance of that front as it tries to push inland there, really putting a squeeze in the atmosphere. And again, those storm warnings will be ending probably after midnight tonight, and the showers out here to the west beginning to scatter out a little bit with diminishing winds, especially over the Nikolsky area and eventually into Alaska, but pretty light wind conditions out here to the west. That system staying to the south at least for tonight, and then tomorrow will swing a front up to the western Aleutian areas with rain spreading in toward, rain will spread into Adak tomorrow afternoon as early as tomorrow morning, probably holding off from Atka until tomorrow night. And this low kind of rotating back to the northwest a little bit there, south of Nunivak Island. So a lot of rain and snow showers, or probably just a band of rain and snow with more of a showery condition down to the south. Enough cold air wrapping in, probably drop the snow levels right down to the surface here south of the Pribilofs. But still mixed rain and snow, St. Paul, St. George, and more off and on. Could be more off here in an area just behind the front, but look for gusty northeast winds. In fact, winter storm warning out through tomorrow night, through, yeah, I think it was either, yeah, tomorrow night anyway, for St. Lawrence Island, back up into the Bering Strait, winds gusting as high as 70 miles per hour, or gusts 35 to as high as 70 miles per hour, and that'll be out through tomorrow night, at which time they'll either cancel it or, you know, kick it out for another 24 hours or so. But it's going to stay windy through this area right up into the Chukchi Sea, Point Hope, Kivalina, Cape Lisburne, looking quite windy for the next couple of days. And also along the Brooks Range in areas, but lighter winds up along the north slope tomorrow with some areas of light snow and fog. Heavier, more continuous snow again continuing up here off to the east side, but not too bad over the interior. Southeast winds, whatever the coastal mountains don't wring out of the moisture, definitely the Alaska Range will, and so you'll see probably more in the way of clear skies north of the Alaska Range from the Yukon Flats down to the 40-mile country. Tanana Valley looking really good, not too much in the way of wind. Temperatures not all that cold for this time of the year, staying wet, rain possibly heavy at times with still kind of breezy conditions there for the southeast coast, but beginning to let up a little bit. Next storm here off to the southwest and drying out over Kodiak Island a little bit. For the Tuesday outlook, this system coming northward probably will bring some gale force winds here along the North Gulf Coast once again, and begin to spread some rain, heavy at times, especially the western areas. Kenai Peninsula, Seward, and Cordova looking pretty wet on Tuesday with a little bit of lighter rain here over the southern part of the front there as you get down toward Dixon entrance on into the greater Ketchikan area, and then rain and snow up here over the interior, and that's just snow, periods of, over the interior of the central interior of the Tanana Valley there back out toward Norton Sound. Nothing too heavy, just more of a flurry type of condition, amounts less than an inch, probably less than half inch if they even make a quarter inch. And up here, right along the Brooks Range on the north slope, look for some marginal VFR, possible IFR here, extending back up toward the eastern Arctic coast, staying quite windy here on the northwest coast. Again, about Point Lay, southward into the Chukchi Sea, that's where the strongest winds will be, and then probably dropping under 25 knots northeast of Point Lay up to the Arctic coast. Central coast around Barrow, easterlies 10 to 15, and then picking back up here in the eastern Arctic coast, could see gusts of 40 miles an hour for AKwx there with a little more gradient. And then we have this same storm system that we're seeing today down to the south, still up here now just west of Nunivak Island. So the flow around that, snow showers and colder air coming up from the southwest, will produce a general area of steady snow. Could see a couple inches possibly falling here, and gusty south to southeast winds. Temperatures should stay cold enough to keep that in the form of snow. And still, again, mixed rain and snow, not a lot of change here occurring over south central Alaska. The driest conditions from the Mananuska-Susitna Valley areas right down the east side of Cook Inlet, and the wettest, as I mentioned here, Seward up into Whittier and Prince William Sound over to Cordova. Taking a look at temperatures this afternoon, 40s to lower 50s here for the Panhandle. 52 at Petersburg, also equaled by Klawock and Annette. Also had 52 today with 43 up at Juneau, 38 Skagway, 41 over Cordova, and a 10-degree reading at Gulkana. A nice 45 degrees today in Homer with about 0.11 of an inch of rain falling. Valdez picked up a little over 1/4 of an inch of precipitation. Kodiak 44, and no one reported in the Susitna Valley today, with 14 at Fairbanks and 10 at Tanana. 9 degrees Fort Yukon. Same thing at Arctic Village, 2 below though at Anatuvik, and generally lower teens here with Bettles at 13 degrees. They picked up just under an inch of snow, carrying 13 on the ground now. So one up from Nome that has 12 inches of snow on the ground. Below zero here for the Selawik Valley, actually about the Kobuk Valley on out to the west with -5 up at Point Hope. Well below zero here over the north slope, Arctic coastal areas with the cold spot there at -29 at, I believe that's Dead Horse. 15 below at Barrow, 5 above here at Tin City, 11 in Nome, -3 at Kotzebue. Down the coastline there, Unalakleet at 13 with a 10-degree reading. As I mentioned here at Tanana, 9 McGrath, and 12 out at St. Mary's, 19 at Macoriac. And heading into the warmer areas of southwest Alaska, Bristol Bay upper 30s, lower 30 or mid 30s to upper or lower 40s here for the peninsula. Unalaska 41, St. Paul 34, upper 30s for the entire Aleutian chain. For the lows tonight, anywhere from 0 to 30 below. Coldest readings over the north slope, and again inland from the Arctic coast. And you can see much milder here over southern Alaska with readings anywhere from 30 to 40 degrees. Mostly in upper 30s to lower 40s for the southeast coast, and 30s out here over the for the mid 30s for the Alaska Peninsula, down to near freezing out over the western Aleutians. Highs tomorrow below zero from the Brooks Range northward, and above zero in the single numbers and teens here south of the area, south of the Brooks Range, and from could see some lower 30s in the Tanana Valley, upper 30s down into the Cook Inlet area, and again into the 40s for the Homer area, as well as Kodiak and up into Prince William Sound, mid to upper 40s for the southeast coast, and near 40 for the Aleutians. Flying weather, IFR, pretty likely from the Yakutat area, Elfin Cove, all the way back along in southern Prince William Sound, but jammed right up on the east coast of the Kenai Peninsula and into Passage Canal, with marginal VFR along and just east of the western Alaska Range. VFR, Cook Inlet, big portion of the interior here, and some moisture coming down from the northeast will keep marginal to IFR conditions here from the Brooks Range up across the eastern Arctic coast, VFR back to the west, and some areas of marginal VFR southwest of the Brooks Range, and then back into areas of IFR, St. Lawrence Island, all along the southwest coast into Bristol Bay, and now on the Bering Sea side of the peninsula, back to the northwest across the Pribilofs, and some VFR through the central Bering Sea, and more IFR showing up over the western Aleutians. Anatuvik, occasionally marginal tomorrow, as well as Adigan, with Lake Clark and Merrill, marginal VFR, but eastern entrances look, or the western entrances look pretty good. And same forecast for rainy, the western approach, VFR with marginal conditions, lowest on the east side. windy, occasionally marginal. And for Isabel, north entrance looks VFR from the through the pass, and just to the south probably marginal at times. And that same little better from Antasta, called the south entrance, could be marginal at times, otherwise VFR. For Tanita, marginal becoming VFR. And for Portage, IFR, the lowest conditions on that eastern entrance. For Chilkoot and White, occasionally marginal. For the freezing levels, you can see the colder air streaming eastward here, a little milder southeast flow, keeping 2,000 to 4,000 foot freezing levels in over southern Alaska, and about 4,000 feet here over the southeast coast, colder out to the west. Icing threats, again with the front right up through this area, occasional light to isolated moderate rime icing here all the way along the coast and back in across the Kenai Peninsula in toward Ilion the lake, icing free over the interior, and some more icing threats at lower elevations here, northern Bering Sea kind of coming down around the Pribilofs and down across the Alaska Peninsula, and then the icing associated with that next front coming into the western Aleutians. Winds aloft, again, strong jet across the Pacific with a trough, the center of which is out here near the Komodorskis, and the trough axis right through here. Southeast flow on the north side of that, 70 to 90 knots, stronger jet right through here, about 50 knots, but you can see a general area of ridging through the interior, keeping it dry and pretty nice over the central and eastern interior right into northwest Canada. For the 9,000 foot winds, quite strong, 50 to 60 knots here along and off the coast of the Panhandle, northeast, but diminishing back to 30 knots. Still looks like a 50 knot wind max coming in across southern Cook Inlet into Kamishak Bay. And those strong winds now up over the Bering Strait areas down to St. Lawrence Island and right up to Point Lay and Point Hope, dropping back to 15 knots up there around Barrow. Taking a look at 3,000 feet, quite a windy condition circulating around this low yet with 40 knot westerlies for the Pribilofs. Back around southeast 35 to 40, as high as 60 knots along the Panhandle. Turbulence, occasional moderate chop with those winds, possible severe again for small aircraft, mostly below 4,000 to 5,000 feet there for the severe stuff. Otherwise, below 6,000 to 8,000 feet, getting a little more hit and miss and over the mountains terrain over the interior. Big area with the strong winds up here over the northern Bering Sea into the Chukchi Sea and back along the western Brooks Range. And after the break, I'll be back with a look at the marine forecasts.
Atmospheric researchers have confirmed that the Arctic haze, a polluted air mass that forms each winter over the Arctic region, is widespread and deep, increasing scientific interest about its effect upon the climate. In 1983, scientists aboard a National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration research aircraft took airborne samples of the haze. From the atmosphere above the Brooks Range in northern Alaska. And over Barrow, Alaska. Flying through the haze at altitudes from 50 to 28,000 feet, the researchers analyzed the chemical structure of samples collected by instruments on the plane. A preliminary air sample analysis by Dr. R.A. Rasmussen of Oregon Graduate Center indicates the haze largely is composed of a chemical compound, PCE, and hydrocarbons from fossil fuel combustion. This tends to substantiate the theory that the haze is caused by atmospheric pollutants being carried into the Arctic from principally Europe and northern Asia.
12. CN dropping off. We just passed through an incredibly thick layer, went off scale on the ethylometer. It also is dropping off now on the NEF. Now we're coming back into, look at it, we're coming into another layer. and you'll be picking it up in a minute.
I'll pick it up in 1 minute.
Yeah. So we're coming. The sand is coming in. It's just as good as the other one. Look at it. The neff is starting to pick it up.
Well, this is our trace here. This was the previous layer.
Fantastic. Oh, no, just the thin one. It's falling off again. See?
I went completely off scale.
Good. Geez, that's fantastic. No, this is just a little patch. See it fall off again?
Okay, now.
Went through a clean area. Now we're coming back into another patch. You'll be picking it up shortly. Well, the neff is coming up again, too. It's really patchy.
There we are.
There, see? Oh, look at it. Look at it climb.
Yeah.
Hey, fantastic.
We had a rather diffuse layer with not very strong concentration. Here we saw a rather stronger layer. I was then able to reduce the resolution time of the instrument. And then here we saw an incredibly thick layer, back down to nothing down there. Oh, gee. Hey, hold it. That's 8, 10, 11. 11 counts. Here we are now in another very strong layer here, and I hope if my instrument goes off scale again,
Hey, the neff is climbing higher than it's ever been now.
Just whacked off scale again.
Yeah, I know. Pretty low already. We're at 100 meters.
We're going to go lower. Time 23:47. We're holding in the haze now at 952 meters. We passed through descending at about 3 minutes ago, and now we're back up into it and holding steady right in the center of the haze.
This filter is so-called millipore filter. All of the air was restricted to go through the center by means of the plastic mask. You can see the black spot in the center is the deposit of particles. We can analyze these by a variety of chemical and physical means to study the carbon, both the black carbon and also any organic type of carbon.
Heading the score of scientists on the NOAA study is Dr. Russell Schnell.
Okay, we found the haze layers to be more numerous than anticipated, and the intensity of the pollution exceedingly larger than anyone had expected. And finally, the pollution was spread over much larger areas than we had originally thought.
Flight data will be used in developing improved climate models for determining the effect of the haze on the Arctic climate.
Welcome back. Well, the storm force winds tonight drop back to gale force tomorrow, and also some gales here over the southern inside waters, Clarence Strait specifically, and otherwise getting more variable to northerly, 20 to 25 higher gusts to the north. And Tuesday, southerly winds 20 to 25 knots, strongest on the north coast, a little more southwest and lighter down to the south, and 20 as high as 25 knots higher gusts, Lynn Canal, Glacier Bay from the south. For the North Gulf Coast, southeast 30 knots tomorrow. Prince William Sound, east 25, mostly in that mid to southern sound location there. 15-knot winds for Cook Inlet. 25 knots, Kamishak Bay from the northeast, southeast 25 across the Barren Islands, south 25 for Kodiak. And Tuesday's outlook, 15-knot southwesterlies here for Shelikof Strait, the east side of Kodiak Island. Still looking at small craft advisories here from the North Gulf Coast, right up into Prince William Sound, due to that low that's pulling up in this area here, possibly to the west of Prince William Sound. So that'd carry those brisk winds right into the area there. Lighter and more southwest, 10 to 20 knots there for Cook Inlet. Bristol Bay, southeast 25, and gales tomorrow for the Alaska Peninsula right up to Sitkinak there in that marine zone. And Tuesday, lighter winds, still southwest, but down to 15 knots here all along the Pacific side of the peninsula. And small craft advisories, 20 to 25 knot winds from the southwest here, Bristol Bay back to Cape Sarachev. For the eastern Aleutians, gale force westerlies tomorrow, otherwise 20 to 25 knots. So winds coming down here over the Aleutians, west-southwest 20 for the western areas. And becoming a little more northerly here for the Shemya area, Pretty light though, Kiska and Amchitka with Adak and Atka, westerlies 15 to 20 knots, and small craft advisories here in that zone and lighter 15-knot winds to the south. For the southwest coast, south of Nunivak Island, east 20 knots, and then small craft advisories here northwest of the island. Almost a storm warning there for the St. Lawrence Island zone. Heavy freezing spray extending right down into the northern Bering Sea with 30 to 35 knot winds, northeast 30 for the Pribilofs. And Tuesday becoming northwest at 30 knots there for the St. Paul, St. George area. Gales continue St. Lawrence Island into the northern Bering Sea, and small craft advisories north of Nunivak Island, lighter down to the south. For the eastern Arctic coast, easterlies 10 to 15 knots, northeast 15 for the central coast. Gales here, areas of the west side and also down into the Bering Strait there with heavy freezing spray in whatever areas are still open. And then for the Tuesday outlook, east winds 20 to 25, highest gusts here, possibly gale force gusts over towards Demarcation Point, Kaktovik, and 15 to 20 knots for the central coast. Brisk wind advisories on the west side. Point Lay, probably pick that up, 25 to 30 knots. Gales in this area, 20 knot winds as you get east here, 15 to 20 or less there toward Kotzebue Sound. For tonight, quite an area, quite a front here stretched from the southwest part of the state with periods of rain, gusty winds all the way down to the Queen Charlottes and beyond, with storm force winds along the coast of the Panhandle tonight with rain, heavy at times along the coast up toward Yakutat, and storm warnings also for the Alaska Peninsula. That same low hangs in there until Tuesday. Lifts northward, probably looks pretty snowy and breezy for the southwest coast. Have a great evening and thanks for joining us.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.